What happens when a billionaire falls in love with the one woman society says he must never marry? What if the woman he rejected becomes the only one who can save his life? And what if the wife he chose for status turns out to be the architect of his downfall? Behind the marble floors and glass walls of a luxury penthouse, love is silenced, betrayal wears designer clothes, and a quiet maid holds a secret that could destroy, or restore, an empire. Will love survive pride? Will truth arrive before it's too late? Stay with us to uncover the shocking twists ahead. Like this story, subscribe for more emotional, suspense-filled romance, and don't miss the next part where everything changes. The Kingsley penthouse rose above Victoria Island like a quiet god, untouchable, admired, envied. Floor-to-ceiling glass walls reflected the Lagos skyline, while inside, modern Nigerian design softened the wealth. Polished marble floors, carved wooden panels inspired by Yoruba motifs, neutral-toned sofas, and curated artwork that whispered culture instead of screaming money. Adedeo Kingsley stood by the window, hands in his pockets, watching the city move beneath him. He owned most of what he saw: tech hubs, logistics firms, real estate stretching from Lekki to Ikoyi, yet peace always escaped him. The house was silent. That silence broke softly from the kitchen. A faint clatter. A gentle hum. He followed the sound. The kitchen glowed with warmth, LED strip lights beneath cabinets, matte black appliances, and a long island topped with smooth quartz. Steam curled from a pot on the stove, carrying the rich aroma of pepper soup and spices. Amara stood there, stirring slowly. Her sleeves were rolled just above her elbows. A loose scarf covered her hair, but a few curls escaped. She moved with quiet confidence, like someone who found comfort in order. Adedeo leaned against the doorway, watching without announcing himself. She hummed softly, an old tune he didn't recognize. "Sir." She startled when she finally noticed him, quickly straightening. "I'm sorry, I didn't hear you." "No, don't stop," he said quickly. "I was just passing. It was a lie." "You cooked this late?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Night is peaceful." She smiled, shy but sincere. "The house sleeps, but my mind doesn't." Something about that answer struck him. He stepped closer, inhaling the scent. "It smells comforting." Her smile widened slightly. "Would you like to taste?" He nodded. As he ate, standing there in his perfectly tailored loungewear, he felt something unfamiliar, warmth that had nothing to do with food. For the first time in a long while, he felt seen. A line he wouldn't cross. After that night, Adedeo found himself drifting toward the kitchen more often. He asked about her day, her background, her dreams. She answered carefully, always respectful, always measured. She never crossed a line. And neither did he. Because lines mattered. She was a maid. And he was the Kingsley heir. Morning light spilled into his bedroom through sheer automated curtains. The room was calm, wooden floors, a king-sized bed framed by soft leather panels, abstract Nigerian art hanging above the headboard. Amara was there, arranging the bed. He walked in unexpectedly, fresh from the shower. "Good morning, sir," she said without turning. "Good morning, Amara." She tugged at the duvet, trying to smooth it when it slipped from her hands. Instinctively, he stepped forward to help. His hand met her waist. The air shifted. Her body stiffened slightly, then relaxed. His fingers lingered longer than necessary, as though his heart had finally found courage his mind lacked. Their eyes met. Neither spoke. "I'm sorry," he said finally, stepping back. "It's okay, sir," she whispered, though her voice betrayed her. She left the room moments later, her footsteps quick, controlled. Adedeo remained, staring at the bed they had just shared space over. That was when he admitted the truth to himself. He loved her. Fear wins. But love did not erase reality. He thought of his mother. The board. Society pages. The ridicule masked as concern. A maid, they would say. And fear, quiet, calculating fear, wrapped itself around his heart. So he said nothing. And silence became his greatest mistake. The first time Lola Beaumont stepped into the Kingsley penthouse, the house seemed to straighten itself. Her heels clicked sharply against the marble floors, echoing through the open-plan living room with its floor-to-ceiling glass, sculpted leather sofas, and carefully placed Nigerian art that whispered old money and new power. She wore a fitted cream dress, gold jewelry that caught the light without trying too hard, and a smile practiced in rooms where influence mattered. Adedeo watched her from across the room, his expression unreadable. "This place is stunning," Lola said, slowly turning, her eyes calculating. "It suits you. Powerful. Clean. Expensive." She said the last word like a compliment. Amara stood a few steps behind them, holding a tray of drinks, her face calm, her heart tightening. Lola fit effortlessly into Adedayo's world. She spoke confidently about legacy, public image, and the kind of woman a man like you needs beside him. She praised his achievements loudly, kissed him where people could see, and laughed in a way that drew attention. At charity events, she clung to his arm, perfectly styled, perfectly smiling. Society pages began whispering even before the engagement was official. Inside the penthouse, changes followed quickly. Fresh flowers appeared daily. The scent of expensive perfume replaced the warmth of home-cooked meals. Music grew louder. Nights grew longer. Amara noticed everything. She always did. Amara tried not to watch them. Tried not to notice the way Lola sat on the leather sofa like she owned the space, or how she called Adedayo baby in a voice that sounded rehearsed. She focused on her duties, polishing the wooden panels, arranging the cushions, keeping the house immaculate. But pain has a way of slipping through routine. One afternoon, as Amara cleaned the living room, Lola's laughter drifted from the balcony. "I mean, darling, imagine the headlines," Lola said. "Kingsley finally chooses a wife worthy of the name." Adedayo didn't respond immediately. Amara held her breath. Finally he said, "Image matters." That was all. Amara's hands trembled as she folded a throw pillow. The proposal happened on a quiet evening. The living room glowed under warm recessed lighting. A violinist played softly near the window. Candles lined the glass walls, reflecting endlessly like a promise multiplied. Amara stood near the kitchen entrance, holding a tray of champagne flutes. Adedayo knelt. Lola gasped dramatically, hands flying to her mouth before she nodded eagerly. "Yes. Of course, yes." Applause filled the room. Amara remained still. She did not cry. She did not flinch. She only lowered her eyes and tightened her grip on the tray. Later that night, Amara arranged Adedayo's bed as she always did. The room smelled different now, Lola's perfume lingering in the air, sharp and sweet. The bedspread she smoothed had already been claimed by another woman. Adedayo entered quietly. Their eyes met. For a moment the world pressed pause. "Congratulations, sir," Amara said softly. "Thank you," he replied, his voice strained. He wanted to say something, anything, but the words refused to come. Because courage had left him the moment he chose comfort over truth. Amara finished quickly and left. That night, Adedayo lay awake beside a woman who fit his world perfectly. And felt more alone than ever. From that moment on, the house of glass began to crack. Not loudly. Not yet. But every decision made in fear carries a cost. And Adedayo Kingsley had just made his most expensive one. The wedding was everything Lagos society expected, and more. It took place in a glass-roofed hall in Ikoyi, draped in white orchids and soft gold fabrics. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen starlight above rows of carefully selected guests. Politicians, CEOs, influencers, and families whose surnames carried weight. The air smelled of roses, wealth, and ambition. Adedayo Kingsley stood at the altar in an ivory agbada embroidered with subtle gold patterns, his expression calm, almost unreadable. Across from him, Lola Beaumont glowed. Her dress was custom-made in Paris, her smile flawless, her confidence intoxicating. Cameras flashed as she said her vows, her voice clear and certain. "I promise to stand by you, to protect your legacy, and to build an empire with you," she said. The words earned approving nods. No one noticed how Adedayo hesitated before saying, "I do." Amara did not attend the wedding. She watched it later that night on a muted television in the staff quarters, sitting on the edge of her bed. The screen reflected in her tired eyes as Lola kissed Adedayo beneath the chandelier. She turned the TV off before the applause ended. The next morning she returned to work as if nothing had changed. Because some women learn early that survival sometimes requires silence. Married life transformed the penthouse. Lola redecorated almost immediately, swapping hand-woven cushions for imported throws, replacing warm wooden accents with colder metallic finishes. The house became sharper, brighter, louder. Music blared at odd hours. Guests came and went. Laughter rang hollow. Adedayo watched it all unfold like a man trapped behind glass. Lola was affectionate in public and distant in private. She stayed out late, claimed meetings, and returned smelling of unfamiliar perfumes and smoke. When he asked questions, she smiled sweetly. "You worry too much," she said. "Relax. Enjoy being married." The first argument happened over nothing. "You didn't come home last night," Adedayo said quietly one morning, standing in the kitchen. Lola scoffed, pouring herself coffee with shaking hands. "Must I account for every minute now?" Her eyes were bloodshot. Her voice sharp. Amara, wiping the counter nearby, noticed the tremor in Lola's fingers. Later that day, Amara found a small plastic bag in the bathroom trash. White powder. She froze. But she said nothing. Despite the noise, Adideo felt increasingly alone. Board meetings exhausted him. His marriage offered no refuge. Nights stretched long and restless. Sometimes, as Amara served him dinner, their eyes met briefly, always politely, always restrained. In those moments, he felt the weight of all he had not said. He wondered if things would have been different had he been braver. By the 6th month of marriage, something in Adideo's body began to change. It started with numbness in his fingertips. A strange heaviness in his legs. Lola dismissed it. Stress, she said casually. You work too hard. But Amara noticed the way he struggled to grip his cutlery. The faint wince when he stood. Her nursing instinct stirred uneasily. And somewhere beneath the chandeliers and expensive lies, a storm gathered, quiet, deliberate, and deadly. The illness did not announce itself loudly. It crept in. One morning, Adideo Kingsley struggled to button his cufflinks. His fingers felt thick, unresponsive, as though they no longer belonged to him. By afternoon, his legs trembled when he stood too quickly. At night, a dull ache settled into his spine, heavy and unfamiliar. Lola noticed, but not with concern. You need to see a doctor, she said one evening, scrolling through her phone. I know someone. Very discreet. Very good. Her tone was too smooth. Dr. Kola Renner arrived the next day. He was polished, confident, dressed in an expensive suit that suggested influence more than medicine. He spoke quickly, smiled often, and barely looked Adideo in the eyes as he conducted his examination in the bedroom, now converted into a private medical space with smart monitoring devices and soft LED lighting. Stress-induced neurological fatigue, Dr. Renner declared. Nothing serious, if treated correctly. He prescribed pills immediately. Lola hovered close, asking questions, nodding thoughtfully. Amara stood at the doorway watching. Something felt wrong. From that day, the pills became part of Adideo's life. Every morning, Lola handed them to him with a glass of water. Doctor's orders, she'd say sweetly. At first, Adideo trusted her. Why wouldn't he? She was his wife. But the pills made him worse. His legs grew heavier. His hands shook. His voice weakened. Amara noticed everything. She noticed the pills' color changing. The dosage increasing without explanation. The way Lola insisted Amara never be the one to administer them. You just focus on cleaning, Lola snapped once. This is my husband. Amara bowed her head. But inside, alarms blared. One night, Adideo collapsed in the living room. The marble floor was cold beneath him as his body refused to respond to his commands. His vision blurred. His voice vanished. Lola screamed. Guests were rushed out. An ambulance arrived. Dr. Renner appeared faster than expected. Too fast. By morning, Adideo lay in his bedroom, unable to move anything except his eyes. Paralyzed, Lola cried publicly. She wore black. She held press conferences. She spoke of strength and sacrifice. Adideo will recover, she said, dabbing her eyes. Until then, I will protect his empire. The board believed her. Within weeks, she was named acting CEO. She moved into the master bedroom fully. The house bent to her will. And Adideo, once a god among men, became a silent witness to his own erasure. Many servants quit. The house grew colder. But Amara stayed. She bathed him gently. Fed him slowly. Read him the news in a calm voice. She watched Lola closely. And she watched the pills. One afternoon, while cleaning the bedside table, Amara noticed the label on the medication. Her heart skipped. This was not for healing. It was for paralysis. Her nursing instincts roared awake. That night, as Lagos lights blinked beyond the glass walls, Amara sat beside Adideo's bed. I will help you, she whispered, even though he couldn't respond. Her hand brushed his, still warm, still alive. And in that quiet room of marble and shadows, a different kind of war began. The penthouse no longer felt like a home. It felt like a well-decorated cage. Soft LED lights glowed along the walls, reflecting off marble floors and glass surfaces, but there was no warmth left in them. The automated curtains still rose each morning, revealing the Lagos skyline, yet Adideo Kingsley could no longer lift his head to admire it. Only his eyes moved. And every day, Amara met them with quiet determination. The pills sat neatly arranged on the bedside table, small, innocent-looking, deadly. Amara stared at them one morning as Lola's heels echoed down the corridor. These are wrong, her mind screamed. When Lola left the room, Amara slipped the pills into her apron pocket and replaced them with vitamins she had sourced from a pharmacy the night before. Her hands shook as she fed Adideo. If I'm wrong, she whispered, it'll hurt you. But if she was right. That night, she prayed harder than she ever had. Days passed. Then something changed. Adedayo's fingers twitched. Barely noticeable, but Amara saw it. She gasped, pressing a hand to her mouth. The next day, his toes moved slightly when she cleaned his feet. Hope, dangerous, electric hope, flooded her chest. She knew then the pills were poison. Amara moved carefully. Late at night, after cleaning the penthouse, she sat on her bed researching under the dim light of her phone. She compared pill codes, dosages, drug interactions. Her nursing knowledge guided her where the internet couldn't. Everything confirmed her fear. The medication caused neuromuscular suppression, long-term paralysis if taken continuously. She took photos of the pill bottles, recorded dates, logged Adedayo's small improvements. She began listening more closely. Lola grew bolder. Amara overheard hushed phone calls in the study, discussions of offshore accounts, shell companies, figures that made her stomach twist. I told you to move the money quietly, Lola snapped once. He can't sign anything now. Amara recorded the conversation on her phone, her heart pounding. At night, she watched Lola stumble through the living room, eyes glassy, movements erratic, sometimes shouting at invisible enemies. The empire was bleeding. One evening, as Amara fed Adedayo, she leaned close. I know you can hear me, she whispered. If you understand, blink twice. His lashes fluttered. What? Twice? Tears spilled down her cheeks. You trusted the wrong people, she said softly. But I'm still here. From that moment they worked together, without words. She explained everything. The pills. The doctor. Lola's betrayal. He listened. And believed her. Strength returning. Weeks passed. Adedayo's recovery was slow but undeniable. His fingers curled weakly around hers one night. I won't fail you, Amara whispered. Beyond the glass walls, Lagos pulsed with life, unaware that inside one of its most powerful homes, a maid was quietly saving a king. Morning light poured into the penthouse, softer now, warmer, filtering through sheer curtains that swayed gently in the air-conditioned breeze. The marble floors gleamed, reflecting a calm that had been absent for months. Adedayo Kingsley stood, not alone but standing. He leaned lightly on a polished ebony cane, his senator suit simple yet commanding. The man who had once ruled Lagos boardrooms had returned, quieter but sharper. Across the room, Amara adjusted his collar, her hands steady, her eyes shining with restrained emotion. You're ready, she said. I am, he replied. Because you stayed. The boardroom reckoning. The Kingsley Group boardroom was all glass and steel, floor-to-ceiling windows, leather chairs, a long mahogany table polished to perfection. Power lived there. Lola sat at the head of the table, dressed in black, confidence draped around her like armor. The doors opened. Silence fell. Adedayo walked in. Gasps rippled across the room. Lola's face drained of color. That's not possible, she whispered. Adedayo stopped at the head of the table. His voice, though softer than before, carried weight. It is, he said. Amara wheeled in a screen. Evidence played. Audio recordings, bank statements, medical records, pill identifications, timelines. The doctor's recorded confession filled the room. Lola screamed. You ungrateful man. She shouted. I gave up everything for you. Security moved in. As she was escorted out, her heels scraped helplessly against the floor she once ruled. The empire was reclaimed. Justice and recovery. Dr. Renner was arrested within days. Accounts were frozen. Funds traced and recovered. News headlines shifted from sympathy to shock. Billionaire survives assassination plot. Wife and doctor accused of corporate and medical fraud. Adedayo returned home, not as a broken man but as a humbled one. The conversation long overdue. That evening the penthouse felt different. Warm lighting replaced harsh white. Hand-woven fabrics returned. The scent of home-cooked food drifted from the kitchen. Adedayo sat on the sofa, the city glowing beyond the glass. Amara, he said softly. She stood across from him, nervous for the first time. I loved you long before I lost everything, he confessed. I just wasn't brave enough to say it. She looked away. You chose what the world would applaud. And I almost died for it, he said. Will you forgive me? Silence stretched. Then she stepped closer. Love isn't about titles, she said. It's about who stays when everything is taken away. A different future. Months later, the penthouse was transformed. Not into something grander, but something warmer. Would art, culture, life. Adedayo introduced Amara not as staff, but as his partner. The whispers came, but they no longer mattered. Because the man who once feared society had learned the cost of fear. And the maid who saved a king became the woman who ruled his heart. Choosing right this time. On a quiet evening, Adideo knelt, not beneath chandeliers but in the kitchen where it all began. "Marry me," he said. "Not because I am rich, but because I am yours." Amara smiled through tears. "Yes. Just when love seems victorious. What if the past refuses to stay buried?" As the billionaire rebuilds his empire and finally chooses the woman who saved his life, powerful enemies begin to stir. Secrets Lola never revealed threaten to resurface, and one final betrayal could shatter everything they fought to protect. Will love survive the backlash of society? Will the truth claim its last victim? Or will the price of redemption be higher than they ever imagined? Don't miss the next part, where love is tested one final time. Like this story, subscribe for more gripping romance and suspense, and stay with us as the final storm approaches.